1. This is an old story from near the end of January, when I started out spring semester in a 4-person, 2-bedroom dorm. It was awful. None of my other suite mates would clean if their lives depended on it. They left trash on the bathroom floor and nobody but I ever took out the trash. In fact, there was a literal big trash bag that was plopped in our suite. It had been there during fall semester and was still there when I got back from winter break. But the worst of it was my roommate. We shared a room that he divided using a curtain across our wardrobe cabinets, so I respected his space. If by accident I ever knocked down the curtain, I'd make sure to hang it back up. And I would only briefly cross it if I dropped something that rolled to his side, or in situations, which I'll later illustrate. Didn't stop him from having his friends over, moving my stuff and sitting in my chair, but whatever. That's not the story at hand. This was the breaking point, and what eventually led to me being granted a different room in another dorm entirely. He liked to game, specifically playing FIFA a lot. How do I know? Because he put his TV on at high volume in the middle of the goddamn night, and this isn't just before you go to bed. No. This was at the earliest 11 a.m. EST, and at the latest 4 a.m. EST. At times he would fall asleep while playing a movie or television show, and I'd have to go to his side and wake him up, to which he would usually dismiss me. In one case he said, "I don't hear anything, you're tripping," with his TV volume on. And I'd have to turn it off myself, and he went back to sleep. He did this all winter semester, and at the start of spring I decided, all right, I'm not taking this anymore. So I asked him the first time he went past midnight, and he obliged. Hooray! But the second time, oh no, he decided to pull some dumb crap again. When I asked him to turn it off at 1 a.m., he decided to snap back at me. You see, as January began, I got into a game called Marvel Rivals that I sometimes played with online friends in the evening. I didn't have the volume anywhere above 7 on my TV. It was so quiet I needed subtitles to play the game. In an attempt to not bother anyone in the dorm, he replied that he couldn't turn down his TV's volume because my playing disturbed his sleep since he slept during the day, and he didn't complain about it. So there, clear cut, right? I am a hypocritical a-hole for disturbing his sleep, right? Well, there were 2 issues. Issue 1, this dude does not speak to me. Every conversation outside of a basic "excuse me" is me initiating. I never was informed that he slept during the day since I'm out of class most of the time, and he never even gave a specific time. I mostly played 3 p.m. past. So I'd have no clue that he slept during the day. But okay, I'm still the bad guy for not bothering to check if he was okay with it, right? Right? Effing wrong. Issue 2. Whenever I spotted him nearby while booting up the game, I'd say, "Hey, if I'm disturbing you, just tell me." There were times where in between games I'd go up to him and ask, "Hey, am I making too much noise for you?" Or, "Hey, is my gameplay disturbing you?" Guess his answer. Guess it? No. So apparently my gameplay disturbed his sleep greatly, up until I asked him if it did, to which he'd say no. Make it make sense. He refused to communicate any issues when I asked him to, and then used his lack of communication as a bludgeoning to silence me. But I didn't freak out. I didn't point out the sheer idiocy this idiot had. I decided, all right, let's try to make this work for the both of us. Quid pro quo. I tried reasoning, saying that I wasn't aware he slept during the day, and that I could play the game on mute, and that I'd continue checking on him to see if there was a disturbance. He just told me that I was tripping, and went back to playing his game at high volume. I genuinely do not understand people. How do you express that you dislike your current situation? Someone offers an easy solution to fix your discomfort, with just a little favor being asked in return, and you say no to that? How do you refuse to communicate when someone asks, and then pull out your refusal as a trap card, like this is bloody Yu-Gi-Oh? How do you even make it to a high school diploma with the intellectual capabilities of a half-eaten sandwich? No insult to sandwiches. I'd say a brain-eating amoeba must have gotten to him, but upon further thought, that poor thing would starve in his head. Eventually, I got out of that crap hole when I came to the RAs about my roommate's utter refusal to do anything that resembled cleaning for the suite, and got a nice single room in another dormitory building. Hooray! Though my new suite mate did smoke, which at one point caused the room's fire alarm to go off at 2 a.m. one night. Brilliant. 2. My roommate has been driving me absolutely nuts. I'll preface by saying she's a very nice girl, and I don't dislike her as a person, but the thing she does is making me so angry and resentful towards her. I don't know if I'm even necessarily looking for advice, but I need to vent with how frustrating she is. A few months ago, I started noticing random fruit flies around the house. I keep the kitchen very clean and don't have any old food around, etc. So I was confused why they'd be there. Then I'm sitting on the couch, and she comes out of her room with like 4 giant trash bags to take out, that'll do it, and a literal swarm of fruit flies follows her out of her room. I was like, hell? The house was now totally infested with fruit flies everywhere. In my room and bathroom everywhere. For context, she works nights, and every single day she will get food delivered around 4 p.m., take it into her room and eat, and then leave for work, without taking out her trash from her food. So she ends up building up weeks and months worth of food trash in her room, which is obviously where these flies are coming from. I ended up buying a bunch of little traps to try and get rid of them, and told her, hey, there's a ton of fruit flies in the house, so can we please make sure to not keep food and trash in our rooms? She just acted confused, like, yeah, that's so weird that they're here. I'm like, dude, your room has to be swarming with them. She's 19, and I think due to her age, she just doesn't like to take accountability for things and play dumb. She's done that for multiple other things, but that's not the point of this. She also has a lizard that she feeds crickets, and so many times the crickets have been around the house, as I'm sure she's careless and sloppy in dumping them in the tank. We are moving out when our lease ends at the end of the month, and I've started noticing flies everywhere again. So, yet again, I'm getting traps to clear them out, but my concern is how disgusting will her room be when we move out. Whenever she opens her door, it stinks and lingers in the rest of the house for a while, and I know she has so much trash piled up in there. I'm really concerned about our deposit when we leave. Who knows how stinky and bug-filled it will be, which I'm sure our landlord will not be pleased to walk into. And like, I mentioned the crickets. Who knows how many of those will be in there too. The other day she washed clothes, and later I went to use the dryer and it was filled with grass. Like grass, all in the lint trap, dumping out from the door. Then I tried to run it and the dryer is broken and doesn't spin. I'm not certain it's her fault, but it's yet another thing that seems to be damaged by her being lazy and sloppy. What should I do? Talking to her isn't the best because whenever I have told her anything about the stuff she does, she plays dumb and avoids accountability. My boyfriend feels bad for her because he thinks she's likely depressed or something, which I have sympathy for. But at a certain point she's causing so much stress and problems in my life that it's hard to feel bad. I work a demanding job, have a lot on my plate, and all she does is add stress. Is this something the landlord would withhold deposit for? Hellfreezer's note: you're fighting a losing battle with the traps until the source of the infestation is dealt with, which is your roommate's room. The only thing I could suggest, if you want to deal with it yourself, is just tell her, hey, look, this needs to be dealt with. Let me clean your room. You shouldn't have to do that, but it's obvious that she's not going to do it. Or say, hey, look, we could get into trouble when we move out. Let's clean your room together. I suspect while she is cleaning trash out periodically, there's probably something under her bed or fallen down somewhere in there, and that's likely what's keeping the situation as bad as it is. Until the source is dealt with, they're going to keep coming. The best you can do is try to mitigate it and keep it down a bit, but even that's not going to last long if her room is the source of the outbreak. Your deposit will be based on what kind of tenancy agreement you have. If you signed up and you're paying your rent and paid the security deposit together, then yeah, you might be at risk. If you paid separately, then she'll be on the hook for the state of her room on her own. Oh, and the dryer probably just needs the belt replacing, unless it's an electrical issue, but usually with dryers, the belts can get stretched over the years of use, or they can snap, at which point it's not expensive to replace them, but that really is up to your landlord to do. 3. I'm in college and live with 3 of my close friends. One of them I have known since freshman year. We're juniors now, and I met the other 2 through her. Let me preface this with the fact that I do love my roommates a whole lot, but I don't know how to handle this tidiness situation. I have never been one of the tidiest. I cannot absolve myself of leaving some of my things out in the common areas, nor do I mind it when the others do most of the time. However, my issue is with dishes and food. I hate doing dishes, but I do my dishes. That is until everyone else's dishes pile into an unimaginable level, where I can't even do mine. It's a very quid pro quo situation. It drives me up the wall because on several occasions, I have been the one to do all the dishes, which has taken about 2 or 3 hours each time. Jesus. I am not a very confrontational person by nature, but I have always tried to open a space to have a conversation about doing your dishes in a timely manner, so it doesn't get to the point of no return again. Alas, it has, and I'm so tired. Gilly and Odette do their best when they can, but Sabine is the biggest culprit of this. She doesn't clean up after herself most of the time, but when she does, I always end up re-washing her dishes because they're almost always still dirty. Mind you, we are 21 years old. I cannot fathom how a 21-year-old manages to leave caked on residue on plates and silverware. It makes me seethe because she has no regard for the things we share every day. I had realized that one day my Tupperware had started to go missing, so I asked one of my other roommates if she knew anything about it, and she told me, I think Sabine just threw them out because she didn't feel like washing them. I was sick with rage. My Tupperware that I purchased and we all used frequently was just disposed of because you didn't feel like washing them. The worst part about it was I know that if I confronted her about it, she would just offer to buy me more, as if that was the issue. Sabine and Odette also have a bad habit of leaving food out. One time I noticed a bowl that Sabine had left on the living room table for several days. I wanted to see how long it would take her to get rid of it. No surprise, I ended up throwing it out. But besides that, I'm the only one who constantly cleans this house. I deep clean for hours. The bathroom, the stove, the countertops after cooking, and I just feel very undervalued. Sabine sheds so much too, and I'm always cleaning her excess hair out of the shower drain, and it skeeves me out to no other. Tell me why I also managed to find her hair on dishes. Gilly and Odette express their gratitude, which is appreciated, but it still sucks. And I'll be subjected to this again next year as well. I don't know how to start a new conversation about my gripes, especially since I had this conversation before and they did not regard what I had to say. Sabine is also a difficult person to approach with things like this, because she will get extremely defensive right off the bat, and the conversation will just end up convincing her that I don't hate her. Input would be greatly appreciated. Hellfreezer's note, you need to stop worrying about how they feel when you chastise them for doing things wrong. You need to stop worrying about placating them. If she pulls the, oh my god, you hate me card, then okay, let her think that. Maybe thinking someone's actually upset with them will cause her to grow up a little bit. Now, you say at the start that you genuinely love them. They've obviously got traits that you do find appealing and that you do care about that you've not mentioned here. But I wouldn't want to keep living with them if you want to maintain those friendships. You say you'd have to go through it again next year. Is it a multi-year lease? If it's not a multi-year lease, I would start looking for other accommodations. Because at this point, they are not going to change. There's no possibility they will change. They don't think they're doing anything wrong. They probably think you're a little bit too uptight, that you'd want to do crazy things like, oh, I don't know, getting rid of dirt and keeping things clean so that people don't get sick. Imagine that. 4. I'm not really telling this for dramatic effect. This is less of a story and more a quiet breakdown in monologue form. I rent a room from someone I used to work with. She was medically retired from the Navy earlier this year, sometime around January or February. Since then, she's taken on a new role, professional bystander to her own life. No job, no direction. Not even a casual flirtation with productivity. Chores? Please. I've become a one-man support staff, and it's starting to wear thin. She hasn't made the faintest attempt to look for work. Her days are a steady rotation of TV marathons, TikTok spirals, and phone calls with the same 4 people on an infinite loop. She doesn't leave the house. She doesn't exercise. She naps like it's a prescription. 3, sometimes 4 times a day, like she's fighting off some invisible plague no one else can see. And the bed thing. She's been sleeping on the couch for 2 weeks because she hasn't made her bed. That's it. Not because something's wrong with the bed, just it's unmade. And apparently that was the final boss. Now look, I understand mental health is a beast. I have my own impressive collection of diagnoses. But here's the thing, I still do my laundry, I still go to work, I still take the trash out, and occasionally breathe fresh air. So no, I'm not unsympathetic. I just think there's a line between struggling and quietly decaying in place while someone else cleans up around you. I genuinely respect the idea of taking time after service. I'd do the same. If I had a break from work and stable income, I'd use the time to fix things. I hear that. Go places, finish all the projects I have time for, maybe find joy again. Not marinate on the couch until I fuse with the cushions. Can't even get a proper wank out because she's always home. Privacy here is a concept, more than a reality. She leaves the bathroom door open. Bedroom too. There's no such thing as personal space when you live with someone who treats their surroundings like a studio audience. It's not just inconsiderate, it's exhausting. Outside, the backyard is slowly reverting to nature. The above-ground pool is now home to some form of green life. The yard looks abandoned, dishes stack up like a modern art installation. Trash doesn't move unless I move it. The dog, bless her, is clearly wondering how she ended up here. The roommate is enrolled in one online class, and that's the entirety of her output. Which brings me to what finally broke me, the trash barrels. Her one ask, one single responsibility, is to wheel them to the curb every Thursday. Not hard, no complex choreography required. And yet for the 2nd week in a row, I get home and there they are, untouched, full, festering. And there she is, exactly where I left her on the couch still, phone in hand, mid-scroll, not even pretending to care. I don't say anything, I take off my boots, clean my room, do my own dishes. And as I'm rinsing the sink, I hear it, snoring loud, unapologetic, midday slumber. She fell asleep in the middle of not doing anything. Maybe this all bothers me more than it should. I know I'm a project-oriented, hyper-functional type who doesn't sit still well, but honestly, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is waking up every day in a house that feels less like a home and more like a hospice for ambition. 5. I'm male, 23, my fiancée is female, also 23, and we have a roommate who is male and 23. So, I'm going to give a little context, as I want the most accurate opinions and advice. About 7 months ago, I messaged a friend asking if they were interested in becoming roommates. An apartment I had been waiting for to become available had finally become vacant. At the time, he lived with his parents and had never lived separately from them. He expressed interest, and we decided to meet up in person and discuss it further. We messaged for a while and expressed our expectations and each of our cleanliness levels. When we met, we discussed finances and whether this opportunity was right for both of us. We came to the conclusion that in order to make it work, I would need to pay more in rent. We also agreed that my girlfriend would move in when she finishes college, lowering costs for all of us. I expressed that she has OCD and is autistic. so she is very particular about cleanliness. Before moving forward, I made sure this was something we were both completely comfortable with. We decided that in return for paying more, I'd get the larger room. When moving in, I signed up for all the utilities and we discussed a 50-50 split. In the first few months, he asked to pay me rent a few days late, waiting for his payday 2 times. I wasn't upset at the time, but it didn't fill me with confidence. I began noticing pretty quickly that he wasn't a very clean person. Used dishes everywhere, messes on the counter that sat around until I cleaned them. We never discussed chores, big mistake I see now, but we fell into the routine, which we then talked about, where he does the dishes and takes the garbage out, and then left everything else to me. I was okay with that at the time. Since then it's become more of an issue, because he doesn't wash the dishes fully. There's dried soap on them, crusted food, and he scrapes out pans with, metal spatulas to get the tough stuff out. This is leaving me feeling upset because I take the larger load of responsibility, while he fails to complete the ones he has. Our cardboard and recycling sits in the kitchen for weeks going untouched. I do take it out when it's getting too long or when I create an ungodly amount of waste, because I understand we all get busy and aren't motivated. And the final issue I've noticed is he sheds pubes all over the bathroom and doesn't clean them up. It takes 2 days for enough to accumulate that you notice immediately upon entry into the bathroom. Those are the consistent things, but there are some isolated events that just really upset me. He once projectile vomited all over the bathroom. Jesus. I mean all over. Walls, toilet tub, radiator, floor, bath mat. I understand that night he was feeling like crap, wiped up a little bit and went to bed. But he didn't clean further the next day. I told him it's still all over the place and he went to clean it. I went to take a shower and there were stains and chunks and it still smelled like vomit all through the upstairs hallway. Maybe I should have pressed him further to clean. But I couldn't take it anymore and cleaned the bathroom top to bottom myself. He said he was embarrassed about it, but didn't seem apologetic, just like, damn, that sucks. I've done a lot of thinking and deliberating with myself and trusted friends. I don't want to continue living with him, but I do very much value our friendship. I came up with the idea that when my girlfriend, now fiancé, moves in over the coming months, I will tell him that we are realizing how valuable our own space would be and ask him to leave. I'm struggling with whether that's a good idea, or if I should include my struggles with how he treats our shared spaces. Please feel free to ask for more details, and any advice would be appreciated. Thank you. Hellfreezer's note. I think you just gotta be honest with him. It's good that you've seen that it's just not compatible to remain living together and that you do want to preserve your friendship. And living separately is obviously the only way that's going to happen. But just be honest. Just say, over time it's become more and more apparent that while you are good friends, like a lot of good friends, you're not compatible to living together. You're just too different. You have different standards, different wants, different needs. Plus, on top of that, you are about to get married. So you and your fiancé want your own space. That together should be fine, if he's a reasonable person. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates, episode 72. And thank you very much to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please hit the like button before you go, I would appreciate it, and consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. That helps YouTube realize that the videos are good, and they should promote them to people. And I like it when they do that. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do that by signing up for my Patreon page. $1 or more if you would like a month. Helps keep things running around here, and as a thank you, you get access to all the videos at once on a Monday. And there's also a link to my merchandise store on Teespring in the description. Okay, that's the business out of the way, so let's move on to Hellfreezer's question of the day, and today's question is... This one comes from Newcomb via the Discord. Easter egg hunting. I'm a bit late on this one. Real or plastic eggs, which is better? Well, I would say chocolate eggs would be better. I mean, rather than find chocolate eggs and shove them in your face. Let me know what you think in a comment below. And before we go, let's take a look at the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one came from Bad Roommate 71 and was, if you discovered you couldn't have a favorite food anymore, would you accept that it was gone or try to find a suitable replacement? And today's answer comes from, let's see, Annie Northman. I could always use a substitute for something. Like if I don't want beef or chicken, I'll just go for the vegan or veggie version. That's what I do sometimes, Annie. In fact, I've kind of come to prefer vegan burgers and vegan chicken nuggets. The chicken nuggets, you just can't tell the difference, and the burgers are very, very close these days. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.